Hello, friends, and welcome to Season 3 of Hops and Hedges, the podcast where we talk about beer, landscaping, and everything in between. I'm your host, Heather Gerard from My Landscape Artist, and I am so glad you're here. Hops and Hedges is proudly sponsored by ext.tech, and you're going to want to stick around until the end of the show for an exclusive discount code to use for their powerful CRM software and mobile app. Now crack open a cold one, and let's dig in. And there we go. With me today, all the way out from the East Coast in New Brunswick, is Diego from 153 Brand Marketing. Welcome, Diego.
Thank you so much, Heather.
I'm so excited we finally got to do this. I met you last year at the 2025 Landscape Ontario Landscape Congress, and it's been a while, but here we are. We're doing it. January 2026, like a year after we met. And a lot has happened.
I think it's been exactly a year since we last met.
That's crazy. Yeah. And so much can happen. So we're going to dig in. You've got lots of things going on. So your business, so 153 Brand Marketing, you started October 1st of last year. Right now it's January. You started October 1st. This is huge.
Exactly.
So for people who don't know you or your company, can you let our listeners know, who are you? What do you do? What's your company about? And why are you amazing?
Yeah, no, thanks for asking that question. It's something that I've been thinking about for quite a while now, just getting that clarity of what it is that I offer to people and how I want to differentiate myself. So I'll give you the Cole's notes. So many landscapers in particular feel like their marketing is not working, but the real problem is not really their marketing. It's their story, both in words and how it's expressed through visuals.
Right.
I help landscape companies clarify their story, live out their brand, and spread the word so they can attract the right people and grow with purpose. I specialize in working with primarily landscapers, but I also work with companies of other in other industries. So I have some clients that are in engineering, manufacturing, so quite a diverse range.
Mm-hmm.
I have a framework that I lead all of my clients through, regardless of their background or their niche, and that framework is what I call the 153 method, and it's very simple. It's 3 steps. I help them clarify their story and their brand. I help them live out that brand. And then finally, I help them share or spread the word through marketing that actually works and that connects with the right people.
Nice. I was gonna ask you, so you call so your shtick is the 153, like that's your process. So where did this name come from?
Well, let me tell you little stories.
I love stories.
Yeah, no, it's a great story. So the number 153 is one that appears multiple times in the Bible. And this came from my high school it was my high school Christian fellowship or little Christian club that I had. We called ourselves Project 153. It's sort of been the number that I've used throughout on my email. And when it came down to starting my company and naming my company, I thought, hey, maybe this is the number that has been a defining number throughout my whole life. Maybe that should be the name of my company as well. But the story of 153 is actually quite interesting. So in the Bible, after Jesus had died, the disciples were going back to their previous profession, which was mostly fishing. So they're fishing, they're all bummed out, and they're not having any luck fishing or catching any fish. Then Jesus appears and tells them, hey, like you should try the other side. And again, they're bummed out. They've been trying to fish for a while and they've caught nothing. So they're quite skeptical, but they're called to take a leap of faith. And they do. They cast their nets on the other side. And lo and behold, they catch 153 fish. So how that story ties to what I do, I've been doing this for about 20 or close to 20 years. And a consistent story that I hear from companies is that they've tried marketing with different companies and they're just not satisfied. And they just go to the next company. And again, they're not satisfied. And they've lost faith in marketing. A lot of people feel very cynical about the world of marketing and the world of branding. And for the right reasons. There is just so much noise out there. There's
Oh, yeah.
so many marketing messages that are being thrown at us every single day. And they're just making our world very noisy, and they're polluting this world with visuals, with audio, and we're just burnt out. So I can understand why people have lost faith in marketing, but I want to help redeem marketing for these folks, and I want to restore the faith in marketing, because marketing can actually work if you do it right. And at the heart of doing it right, I believe in being truthful and being clear in our storytelling above anything else. We want to tell stories that are not necessarily louder, but that are clearer and that actually connect with our audience. So again, standing out not by turning up the volume, but by actually turning up the clarity. And I believe that that's how one stands out. So that does make me a little bit different than the average agency out there.
Yeah. I love that story, that the 153 fish. Like that's really in line with, I can see it as marketing, right? Like people, they're doing all this work. They know they got to get fish or nobody's going to eat. And they got their nets and they're throwing it and again, and they're not getting any fish, right? And then somebody comes along. It's like you, that's like, dude, you have the net, you have the tool, but you're just not quite putting the net in the right spot. So let's just move the net. I'll be your guide, right? I'll help you put the
Exactly.
net where it's got to go, and let's get you some fish. Like, I love that.
Exactly.
So, very cool. So, I see you've got a bone shaker with you. Excellent choice, I might say.
Yeah. So in my questionnaire, I promised that I was going to drink a beer from near my house. And I
Yep.
live in a little town called Shediac here in New Brunswick. And there's a brewery, maybe less than a kilometer. It's within walking distance, called Pump House.
Yep.
And they have an IPA that I was going to drink. However, because I didn't know that we were recording tonight,
Surprise.
yeah, no, it's totally cool. I went into the fridge and I thought, I had a variety of beers. I had one from Prince Edward Island.
Oh,
That was
nice.
the only local-ish one that I had. And I
Yep.
had a few from Toronto. And the reason why I chose a Bone Shaker is because it's probably one of my favorite Toronto beers. I would say my second favorite. First one
Okay.
being Steam Whistle.
Yep. Okay. Good choice. I was just talking to David Milne at Congress, so shout out to David, and he had mentioned Bone Shaker. And when I bumped into him, he brought me a beer from Ottawa that I had never tried before. So it's called Bend the Universe IPA
Okay.
from Dominion City Brewing. And shout out to them because I did have a couple sips before we started recording to make sure that I wasn't going to make, you know, some beer it's just a little too intense.
Mhm.
So cheers to you, Diego, and your new business. So exciting. Cheers.
Cheers.
Mhm. That's so good.
Hmm.
So you started, sorry, my brain just stopped working there for a second. So your business started October 1st, 2025. Like that is huge. And in your questionnaire, you had mentioned, and we were talking briefly before we started recording, how, it takes guts to leave a company, to leave a sure thing, and to follow your gut and follow your gut, follow your heart, and go make something for yourself. So bravo.
Yeah, just a little courage.
Yeah.
A little bit of a backstory and why the stakes were a little bit higher for me. So I have five children
My
and they're
goodness.
hungry and
Yeah.
they require clothing and all the things that people require to live. So it was not a decision that I made lightly.
Yeah.
And at the heart of it was this conviction that I had about all the things that I had learned over the years. And just, I just felt called to spread that knowledge and that goodness with a lot more people than I
Hmm.
would have been able at my previous place of employment. And I was highly encouraged by Mark Bradley from Leanscaper, previously from LMN, and his team, and they really gave me a lot of encouragement in my journey leading up to quitting my job to start my own adventure.
Yeah. Yeah, so big shout out to Mark Bradley. So he was somebody you listed as a mentor for you. So had you signed on to like were you using I guess you probably wouldn't be using LMN, but you'd be using Leanscaper. You joined the network and
Mm-hmm.
got the coaching and that kind of stuff.
Well, I'm not a landscaper, so I'm not quite getting the coaching for the purpose of growing my landscape business, but I've been plugged in with Leanscaper since the beginning.
Yep.
I'm a certified Leanscaper advisor. I was one of the first ones to become quote unquote certified.
Nice.
And I work with the Leanscaper clients, that would be landscapers primarily, to help them, again, clarify their message, live out their brand, and grow their business through and spread the word through marketing.
Very cool. I came across the Leanscaper AI booth at Congress, and it is a really exciting product.
It really is. And the reality is this: we have a shortage of workers. We have an evolving world that a lot of technology is starting to be introduced, and it's that technology is going to change how we operate. And historically, landscapers have been very slow to adapt and to adopt technology. And people like Mark and the Leanscaper folks are actually helping bridge the gap that exists currently between the old way of doing things in landscaping that is simply not sustainable,
Right.
with really the future, not just of landscaping, but of how the world is going to run.
Right.
A lot of business owners in particular, and I see this with companies of all sizes, they're so busy trying to put out fires, they're working deeply in their business, and they're burning out.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have the time, they don't have the mental capacity to work on the business.
Right.
So there's two big elements of Leanscaper. One of it would be the Leanscaper OS, and that's the operating system and the mentality that they're trying to get people to adopt. It's a way of doing things. And then the
Mm-hmm.
other one, which you mentioned, was the AI aspect of it, and that's Lana, their AI system. And that one is probably the most fascinating because they're working on a system that you feed yourself to become the brain of your entire company. And that's something that's, gosh, it's unheard of. I mean, landscapers are just starting to think about going electric, and
Mm-hmm.
this is, bringing landscaping into the present very, very quickly. Because I mean, electric tools have been around for so many years. They're
Mm-hmm.
just being adopted. AI, I mean, it's in 2020, we didn't know about ChatGPT.
Right.
2021, we started laughing about its limited power, quote unquote. And now the ones who are laughing are the ones who have adopted AI, and everyone else is being left behind. And Mark Bradley and Leanscaper are helping landscapers bring landscapers into the future,
Mm-hmm.
which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic. I was one of the speakers at Congress myself, and my topic was AI and climate change. Like these two things,
Mm-hmm.
right? The technology is changing so quickly, and so is our climate, so is the environment, so is the political landscape, right? There's so much uncertainty, but the truth of the matter is that AI is here. We can put our head in the sand, and ignore it, but it doesn't make it
Exactly.
go away.
Yeah,
So,
and one fascinating and comforting piece of knowledge, for those landscapers out there is that while AI will replace a lot of professions, it will replace a lot of people. The service industry, particularly companies or trades like landscaping,
mhm.
will thrive into the future because they people still need people to do work at their homes. But as a landscaper, running in a world that is also fighting a shortage of people who want to work with their hands, both in the US and Canada, then you have to find ways to operate more efficiently, to do more with less resources, and to accept that
Yep.
maybe the answer is not trying to steal workers from other companies, but just accept that you have a limited workforce and that we have to find more efficient ways of delivering for more value for customers with less resources and less people.
Really.
That's not necessarily a bad thing because you can pay your workers more, they can deliver more value.
Yeah, one of the we're going to talk about books too in a little bit, but something just how you worded it reminded me of the book The Four Agreements,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them is do the best you can with what you have, right? So
Exactly.
it's the idea of this book is that these are four agreements that you make to yourself to live the best life you can without being bogged down or without overcoming shame or guilt or any of that kind of stuff. But if you can do the best you can with what you have, that's the best you can do. So if we only have a finite number of people able to do the physical work, if that's all we have, we need to find a better way of, you know, running our businesses. So it's just fascinating, just totally blows my mind. I've gone through quite a number of rabbit holes myself looking
Yes.
into this AI stuff. So, there was a couple
No,
things.
yes, we definitely do.
Yeah. So there was something I always like asking people on the show if they have some advice that they could give, either in life or professional experience or advice. And you had some really good nuggets on here. Did you have the questionnaire in front of you that you filled out?
I don't, but I can probably
That's
pull it
quite all
up. Give me
right.
2 seconds.
So in life, you had said the first thing you said was don't ignore the quiet voice telling you that something isn't aligned. And that is powerful. Like
Yes.
that's a good one.
Yeah, so I mean, before we started recording, we were chatting a little bit about our journey and how you left also a stable job to start your own gig. And I did the same thing.
Hmm.
And I recently gave a talk to designers who are considering starting to get the itch to leave their current place of employment to start their own business. And there were 3 things that I shared with them that they ought to do before pulling the trigger. And one of them, and I would say it's probably one of the most important, was doing a bit of a self-assessment.
Hmm.
Knowing yourself honestly was the piece of advice that I gave them. And um, part of it is really knowing your why,
Yep.
having an understanding of what your purpose in life is,
Hmm.
understanding what it is that drives you beyond just a paycheck, and being honest with yourself about your discomfort in your current situation. Is your motivation running towards something bigger, better, more aligned with that why? Or are you simply running away from your current job?
Right.
So to me, that's a very, very first thing that we ought to think about um, if we're considering starting our own adventure. And just being honest with ourselves, are we living our once we have that definition of what our purpose is, asking ourselves, are we living our purpose? Because I do believe
Hmm.
that once our purpose is clear in our life and if we choose not to follow that, we're doing everyone around us a disservice because we have a light that's very, very bright and it ought
Hmm.
to be shared with other people to illuminate a lot of other people. But
Yeah.
if we're hiding it, we're doing the world a disservice.
Man, I feel like you and we have to somehow, I have to get up to New Brunswick or I have to get down to Arizona for Leanscapers event because just some of the stuff you're saying is very much how I think and what I believe. There's another book that comes to mind called The Desire Map. I'm not sure if you're
Okay?
familiar with it.
No.
But that was something that when I lost my job during COVID, and I really had to, figure out, okay, who is Heather? If I don't have this job title anymore, if I'm not associated with this company anymore, which I'd been for years, it's like who am I? And I think a lot of people, like a lot of people, really don't take the time to do any sort of self-exploration to get to know themselves. They're just kind of running through life on autopilot, doing the things that they think they're supposed to do or doing the things that they were told to do without really getting to know, okay, like, but where's the fire? Like, what excites you? Like, what are your core values? What are the things that gets you up in the morning and gets you excited? And if you're not waking up in the morning excited, maybe you need to take a look and figure out why, right? Otherwise, you're going to just keep waking up not excited if you don't change
It's
anything.
it's my guesstimation is that probably about 95% of people sleepwalk through life. And to me,
Good way to put it.
it makes me sad. However, I don't think that we're necessarily hopeless. I wholeheartedly believe that everybody has a purpose and that we've been put on this earth for a particular reason. I mean, to me, the odds of us being alive today and
Hmm.
chatting right now are a gazillion to one. I mean, the odds really are zero. So being alive is a blessing, and I believe that we are alive, all of us, for a reason. And we are given the choice of either finding that reason and embracing it, or perhaps consciously or subconsciously or through your circumstances, not living out that calling. And
Hmm.
to me, it's really sad when people don't. But it is my hope in my heart that people will start to awaken to their purpose and align themselves with that. Because I believe, for example, that you could be living out your purpose being a cashier at the grocery store.
Hmm.
Like there's some cashiers that are so jolly and they're spreading so much joy and love um, in what they do. So it's not so much about your purpose being tied to a specific profession, but it's a little bit deeper than that, and it can be lived out in
Absolutely.
different ways. But the first thing would be waking up to it and making the changes necessary to align yourself with that purpose. And making those changes are scary, or is very scary.
Hmm. And that fear, I don't think goes away. Like the more you discover, the more you uncover. It's like, oh, okay, but keep going,
No,
keep
but
going.
exactly. I mean, fear is a very primal feeling,
Yep.
and it exists to protect us. We just have to embrace the fact that hey, it's always going to be there. Everyone in this world feels afraid. I mean, I can guarantee you, there's no billionaire out there that was not afraid at some point to take a risk, and that's you know doesn't feel a little bit nervous about taking risks.
Hmm.
We all feel that.
It's
But
part of the human condition.
I think it's part of the human condition, but I wholeheartedly believe that the best things in life are on the other side of that fear. And then once we face that fear and those challenges that life throws our way,
Hmm.
we will come out so much stronger and be able to,
Absolutely.
live a better life.
Yeah. It reminds me of a business coach that I've worked with in the past, Jen Todd from the Shift Collective. Just incredible woman out of Woodstock, Ontario. And I remember her giving this retreat for business women, and she was talking about how fear, it's like this wall that we put up for ourselves. Usually, somebody doesn't give us the fear. They might give us a reason to have fear, right? But we put up that wall to keep whatever is on the other side of that, away from us. And she said, "You know what? Do you know how many people are on the other side of the wall that need what you have, that need your service, that need your light?" And she's like, "Get over the wall, get over yourself." That's what she said. You're in your own way. She's like, "Just get over your fear, get over that wall, because there's people over there that need you. It's not about you. Get over yourself." And that just always stuck with me.
Exactly. that ties to what I was saying about your purpose, right? Once you have found your purpose, you're doing everyone else a disservice by not living it out, because we all have something amazing to share with the world. And if you're not sharing it, it's sad, and it's also a disservice to those who could use your light.
Yeah.
The other an analogy that I heard and that I often use to describe or to illustrate what that fear is like, I heard this story of this ant, this tiny little ant,
Mm-hmm.
and they were put on a white piece of paper, and with a Sharpie, somebody drew a circle around the ant, and the
Mm.
ant was fully unable to leave the circle.
Yep.
They kept on going around, around, and they weren't able to leave. And then the person who drew the circle pushed him a little bit out of the circle. There was no physical barrier, it was just drawn there. And once the ant was able to go through with a little bit of help, they were never again stuck within that circle. And that fear that you describe is very similar to that
Right.
circle. A lot of it lives in our heads. And once we are able to pass a threshold, then it's quite liberating.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one of my fears, and this is kind of dumb, was going to concerts by myself or going to the movies by myself.
Huh.
And I remember around 2018, 2019, I went to a con by myself for the very first time. And I realized that nobody really cared that I was
Right.
there by myself. And other
Yeah.
people were there by themselves.
Yeah.
Nobody really cares, but it was all in my head. Like, what are people going to think? Are they going to think I'm weird?
Right.
What do I do? And the answer is, well, you do nothing. You enjoy the music and nobody cares. It
Yeah.
was all in my head. And after that moment, gosh, I've been to so many concerts by myself. I've been to so many movies by myself. I can enjoy just going to a coffee shop by myself.
Yep.
And it's okay. Nobody cares.
It's okay.
But that fear was in me for so many years.
It's interesting that the story about the ant, it makes me think of as people, it's almost like the fear that we have, it's not necessarily a wall, but it is that circle, right? We've drawn a circle around ourselves and it's like I can't pass that because it's scary. But then
Yeah,
when you
there's no
do,
wall.
like somebody either has to like push you across the line or you push yourself, or maybe you just put a toe across and you're like, "Oh, maybe I can do this." And then you cross it, and then what do? We draw a bigger circle, right? Then it's the next thing. So our circle gets bigger and bigger, but it can't get bigger until you overcome that first thing, right? You just kind of
Yeah,
go through that
exactly.
first small circle and then get your circle bigger and bigger and bigger with the things that you're not afraid of anymore. Takes guts.
Yes. And one thing that you touched on was with the help of others. And I don't believe that humans are meant to do life alone. We thrive in community, and we need those people in our life that are going to help us, get past those imaginary lines that exist.
Oh
So
yeah.
entrepreneurship is scary, but it's scarier when you try to do it alone, and
Yep.
you're more likely to fail when you try to do it alone. But when
Right.
we band with other people with similar values, with similar ways of seeing life, and we help each other, it becomes much easier. And
Mm-hmm.
Leanscaper is also that's part of their philosophy, because it's at the heart of it. Yes, they have Lana, the AI brain, they have the Leanscaper operating system, but at the heart of it is it's a community and a
Right.
way of doing life
Mm-hmm.
that really embraces sharing knowledge, with each other, and doing things together. And
Yeah,
to me, that's absolutely beautiful.
absolutely. And I don't think you or I would have started our businesses if we didn't have incredible people surrounding us and supporting us. I know we both have pretty
Exactly.
incredible communities. So, oh
Hmm.
my gosh, you have so many life lessons and that are just beautiful stories and things to share. So we're going to see how much we can get through with them, or through them,
Yeah,
not
sounds
through with
good.
them. You know what I mean? I also love something else
Hmm.
you said was always choose to be the hero, never the victim. Can you just talk a little bit more about that? What do you mean?
Yeah, for sure. And we could do a whole episode on this, but
We
basically,
could.
I used a few years ago, learned I came across Donald Miller, and he's the author of the book that a lot of people within the landscaping community have read, and it's called Building a Story Brand. And within the book, it teaches you how to tell a story in order to connect with your customers and grow your business. But what is not as well known is that Donald Miller, before he was a business um, teacher, coach, he was an author, and he had a whole bunch of memoirs. And one of them, he tells a story of how learning about storytelling changed how he sees life.
Hmm.
And within it, he starts talking about the different archetypes that exist in story. And there's four main archetypes. And these are also a reflection of life. In life, there's heroes and there's victims at the core of it. The hero is not necessarily someone who is strong. If you think of stories, your favorite movies, your favorite books, the main character of that book at the beginning of the book tends to be the weaker character.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ant that's inside of the circle, and they don't
Yeah.
know how to get out. And what differentiates a hero and a victim in life is not whether or not they face challenges, because all of us in life will face hardships of different kinds. We're all fighting our own battles. Some people's battles are absolutely horrible and heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
But what really differentiates people is not necessarily the challenges that they face in life, but how they react to those challenges. Because we always have agency over our lives. We have more agency over our lives than we think.
Mm-hmm.
And the heroes are the ones who look at that challenge that they have faced, the struggles that they have faced, and they have worked through them to overcome them, usually with the help of somebody else. And the victims are the ones who choose not to overcome those challenges and to be defined by them. That's why in one of the darkest sort of examples would be survivors of human trafficking. They don't call them victims, they call them survivors. And there's
Right.
a reason for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not defined by what happened to them. They survived what happened, and now they're helping others overcome the effects of what happened, and they're trying to help others prevent it from happening to other people. But anyways, heroes are the ones who face their challenges head on and they come out stronger. The victims are the ones who let the circumstances define them.
Hmm.
And there's a danger that we run across when we decide to play the victim in life. Hurt people hurt people. We've all heard that saying before.
Right.
And the victims in story tend to spread that hurt onto others, and by becoming the villain in the story. So if you think of villains in stories like Batman, you've got different villains, but let's talk about probably the most famous one being the Joker. If you know the story of the Joker, he was not born evil.
Right.
He was not a bad child. He was bullied and he was hurt. Somebody scarred him. And he allowed that hurt to define him, and he dedicated his life to hurting other people. But
Right.
not because he was born a bad person, but because he allowed his hurt to define him, and he spread that hurt. So in story, we have the heroes and the victims, and the victims risk becoming villains and spreading more hurt. But the heroes, once they overcome and they learn and they come out stronger, they have the opportunity to help others and become the guide. And those are the four main arcs. They've got the heroes and the guides, you've got the victims and the villains.
It is impactful stuff. If anybody's listening right now and they do not own the book, Building a Story Brand, I think there's the Build a Story Brand in 30 Days. Um, but Don Miller, Building a Story Brand will change your life.
Yeah, and but the book itself that like really sparked this was called um I believe it's called A Million Miles in a Thousand Years. Yes, A Million Miles in a Thousand Years
Ah,
by Donald Miller. So it's the same author, and it came before Building a Story Brand. And really, it's a memoir. And he talks about how storytelling helped him make sense of his life, and it helped him find his purpose and live out that purpose.
hmm Just fascinating stuff. And it really does, the more you dig into it and the more you think about it, it really does start to define you and how you go through life and, you overcome those challenges. So it's sometimes I find it very difficult to have a conversation with someone who, in my opinion, likely has like a victim mentality where it's so hard because I know that this person has had hardships or is dealing with hardships. So have I, and so have others. But nobody can overcome those hardships for you. You have to at some point decide that, you know what? I'm going to get over this. I'm going to overcome this and I'm going to be better for it. But no one can decide to do that for you, right? So
No,
you can
because
try
the
and
guides
help
can give
guide
you.
a victim, right? You can
Yes, I was
try
just going to
to
say
be a
that.
guide, but they're like, I don't want a guide. It's like, well, call me when you're ready for a guide. Like, it's so
Exactly.
frustrating.
Exactly. And it is frustrating. It is heartbreaking because, again, a lot of people are sleepwalking through life and they will go through life without overcoming those challenges, perhaps through their hardships that will hurt other people. And it is heartbreaking. But I do believe that we all, as humans, have the potential to overcome our challenge or to face our challenges, overcome them, and help other people overcome
hmm
theirs as well.
Yeah. Oh, gives me goosebumps, man. Yeah, that could be a whole episode just in itself. A couple other things that you had mentioned about for, um, some advice or somebody wanting to start their own business. And you mentioned this earlier, but it's so important is clarifying your message, right? I think so many times, especially I see it in the landscaping industry and profession, is our message is we will come and we'll look after your property. Okay, well, you're sending the same message as about 500,000 other companies. Like,
Hey, that's a better example than the majority of messages that I see. I would say that the most stereotypical and the most common story told by landscapers is we are a family-run company founded in 1988 by
yeah,
a great grand. And the reality is nobody cares about your grandpa. Nobody cares that he was poor and that he came from Holland with nothing in his pocket.
right.
What people are really focused on is themselves. I mean, we are the heroes of our own story.
hmm
Your customer, all they really care about is I've got a yard that looks really crappy outside. I need someone to help me transform it. It's going to be a big, big project. It's going to cost, I know it's going to cost a lot of money. The stakes are high. I don't want any headaches. I need to hire someone who's trustworthy. Can I trust you?
Yeah,
And if you start by this story by saying, well, we're a family owned bit, you're not answering the question that they're
that they're
asking.
asking. Yeah. It's interesting with, what our ideal client avatar. We talk about that in business, right? If you don't know who your ideal client is, how can you possibly make sure that your message is getting to them, right? Like we need to put our feet in
Yes,
their shoes and ask the questions that they're asking so that we can figure out what the answer is, right? People want
yeah,
it to be
totally.
easy. They want the process to be easy. People don't want to feel stupid. And this is something that I think a lot of people, contractors specifically, don't understand is that contractors, we are really good at what we do. And what we do is very
Mhm.
niche, but there's a lot of jargon. There's a lot of education that came with it. There's a lot of trial and error. There's a lot of things we've learned with years of experience, right? And when we just go in and be like, oh yeah, we can do your patio, no problem. That's not enough, right?
No, it's not. And there's a lot of assumptions made as well, and a lot of frustration. And I do wholeheartedly believe, because a lot of people say like, oh, there's, so many sketchy people in the trades. And yes, there's a lot of disappointment, but I think that at the root of that disappointment is not a whole bunch of evil people just, walking around the streets of Toronto trying to
Yeah.
sell you landscaping. Like, let's just face it, who wants to get into the trade to scam people? Like maybe a few people, but it's not, there's easier ways to scam people. I wholeheartedly believe that at the heart of a lot of these disappointments is a lack of communication. And
Mm-hmm.
landscapers and people in the trades have not done a really good job at clearly articulating how they're helping improve the lives of others. They're doing
Right.
amazing things. I wholeheartedly believe that landscapers are some of the most fascinating people that exist. I
Mm-hmm.
wholeheartedly believe that landscapers are helping solve the world's biggest problems. And there's two. One of them is a lack of connection with each other. And landscapers are building spaces where we can connect with each other.
Yeah,
And then
it's
the other big
crazy.
problem is we're disconnected from nature. And these folks are putting us out there in nature
Mm-hmm.
with each other. But they're not telling that story. And then the second part is once they get into the process of helping someone, they're really good at what they do, but they're not very good at communicating. So, for example, it's raining outside and it's absolutely horrible and they can't work. So they don't show up because they think, well, we can't work. It's raining.
Yeah, it's obvious.
The customer doesn't know that.
Right. Give them a call,
All
send them
you
a
need is to
message or
call
a
them.
text.
Exactly. So at the end of the engagement, you end up with a lot of resentment because, well, they never showed up or
Yeah,
they kept on showing up late. All these problems can be avoided by simply communicating with each other. And
absolutely.
that's something that I really wish. And well, I wholeheartedly believe that more and more landscapers are going to start doing better and better and better.
Yep. And I think a lot of us, we have good intentions. I don't think people are going around offering to cut grass for money because they think the work is going to be easy. You get into this,
Oh,
you
no,
learn
not
pretty
at all.
quickly that what we do is hard work. But the intentions are good, but we still have there's a lot of companies that just we're always learning, right? Something that came up at
Mhm.
Congress that I mentioned during my talk is that the right plant, right place isn't enough anymore. Like that's something as landscapers, we've always been saying this. It's a right plant in the right place. But with the change in technology and with the change in climate and our environment, is that we also need to be setting the right expectations with our clients. Not just about the plants, but we need to let them know that the landscape is a living thing, right? There are chances that your nicely poured concrete porch is going to get a crack in it because guess what? There's freeze thaw. So we have installed the base properly to specs. We don't foresee any problems, but this is a possibility. We need to be informing them so that when it happens, they're like, oh, yeah, they said that might happen, right? If we can set expectations early, that is how we prevent running around like a chicken with their head cut off, putting out fires later, right? If we can
Mhm.
communicate early with, here's all the things that I've looked after, here's everything that we're doing, here are some things you need to look out for. If you see this, we think we've gotten all the goutweed out or the poison ivy. But if you see it and this is what it looks like, I want you to call us, right? Set the right expectation. You can't just pick the right plant and be like, yep, okay, job's done. Bye. Right?
Exactly. But those who are actually doing a good job at communicating and setting the right expectations, building great relationships with clients are thriving. And that just makes my heart feel so warm and makes me feel so happy.
Yeah. It's I honestly full-heartedly love what we do. I really do think that the landscape profession and this whole industry, the work we do really matters. And I love that it connects so many different people.
Mhm.
Like you were saying earlier, what are the odds that you and I would have met each other? But because we had that space where industry professionals in the landscape trade could meet, I got to see your talk. I thought it was amazing, by the way.
Oh, thank
And
you.
right away, I could tell from that talk that you and I were in alignment with a lot of things. So I was like, oh man, I got to talk to this guy more. And then I find out you're in New Brunswick, and I'm like, well, that's not going to happen. And yet here we are.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And I'm sure we will connect at some point because I do go to Ontario quite often. And I didn't go to Congress this year because I wasn't going to speak, but
yep.
uh, maybe I'll go next year. And I've been to a couple of the Leanscaper events, and as my business grows, I'll definitely be going to more and more industry events as well.
Yeah, for sure. I know that the Leanscapers big event is coming up in Arizona. I really wanted to go. But in all honesty, I'm a little bit worried that my social media might cause me some problems at the border. So I'm just gonna not go.
I'm sure it's fine, to be honest. Just don't show your phone. Delete Instagram before you go in.
I'm just gonna
I
accidentally leave my phone at home.
have you crossed the border recently or since?
No,
No? So
no.
to be honest, I mean, I've traveled so much
Yeah,
over the last few years, primarily I would say to the States. I'm Mexican and I have had zero issues at all. I mean, I'm a Canadian citizen.
right.
My background is Mexican, and yeah, zero issues. The American people are, they've always been so lovely to me. I have not
Hmm.
experienced racism. And I'm not saying that those hardships don't exist in the States.
Right.
Obviously, things
But you've
are,
had a good experience, which is
yes.
very nice and refreshing to hear.
And crossing the border has also been quite smooth,
Right.
believe it or not. So no one has checked my social media while crossing
Yeah.
the thing.
It's interesting to me that earlier we're talking about, a little ant not able to cross a line that doesn't actually exist. And I'm this little Canadian ant that doesn't want to cross the US border because I'm afraid. It's like,
Yeah, like honestly,
that'll
on the
probably
other
be
side of
fine.
that border, it's a whole bunch of very loving people.
They're just
And
like us. There's so many.
they're just
Yeah.
like us. And they have their struggles. And unfortunately, the media really amplifies the voices of the minorities on both ends.
Right.
And they do deafen the 299 gazillion people, a million people that are there. There's
Yep.
almost 300 million Americans. I can guarantee you the majority of them are lovely, lovely people. And it's
Hmm.
probably just a handful that are being loud and horrible.
Yeah. Well, I am looking forward to get down to the States. One day I will be an international speaker. So it's gonna happen. It's just not on the books yet. So, couple more things I wanted to ask you about before we wrap up today. I'm
Of
always
course.
asking people about like software tools or books that have really changed them, and we've already mentioned a couple of them. But one that you mentioned in your questionnaire, I'm actually not familiar with, which is the Zag by Newmeyer.
Marty Newmeyer. Yeah. Uh,
What is this?
so there's a right. So part of the 153 method, it walks people through a whole bunch of different frameworks to clarify their story. And clarifying their story involves not just a story that you outwardly tell, but also getting clarity around your beliefs and what you stand for and how your company is different than others.
Hmm.
And positioning is a word that it gets thrown around a lot within business uh, coaching circles. And positioning really means answering the question, how are you positioning your company differently so that you stand out amongst your competition? And ZAG is one of the frameworks that I use to help companies position themselves. And it asks one very simple question. When everyone zigs, how do you zag? And the entire book talks about that, how you can position your company to stand out in a crowded marketplace.
Okay, I am going to buy that book today. So I did see that it was a book.
Yeah,
Because
it's
I
a
looked
really
it
good
up,
book.
but I didn't know that one. I tend to know a lot of books. I have a
Mhm.
slight book hoarding problem.
So, oh, that's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
There's another author called Seth Godin, and
Oh
he's one
yeah.
of the top marketing. minds. So he's got a book called Purple Cow. And
So
I would
good.
say that Zag and Purple Cow are very, very similar. They're just two different frameworks that lead you to the same place.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think I forget who it was that recommended Purple Cow to me, but I read it so quickly in one sitting, and it was just you're reading it, and the whole time you're like, well, duh, of course. But until it was pointed out to you, right? Like it seems so obvious. How hard is
Yeah,
it
exactly.
to sell a black and white cow in a world where everyone knows what a black and white cow is? Like, okay, yeehaw. Well, if you got a purple cow, that's a lot easier. That's memorable. Like, I want to talk about the purple cow, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And the irony of positioning is that because not everyone is communicating with clarity, to the average consumer, it's really hard to differentiate one company from the other.
Hmm.
And you don't necessarily need to be doing something completely different in order to stand out. You simply need to say it to stand out.
Right.
Because you mentioned, well, the right plan in the right place might not necessarily be the best example, but perhaps we're the one landscaping company that will finish your job on time and on budget.
Hmm.
I'm sure there's others in your area that will complete the work on time and on budget, but if you're the only one saying it, you can position your company as such and
Right.
stand out from the competition simply by
Hmm.
saying it and calling it out.
Right. Yeah, one of the things I tend to call out, especially as a passionate landscape designer, is that we need to be charging for landscape designs. So in the
Yeah.
industry, right? So for anybody who's listening who maybe not be in landscaping, I'm going to tell you how it works. Okay? So big company, big contractor will offer a free estimate and a free design if they get the job. So what they'll do is they'll come to your house and they'll say for free, they'll do the site visit for free, and they'll say, "Yep, so this is what we're going to do. You've got a budget of like 180,000 for a pool and little patio. So this is what we're going to do. We are going to charge you 800 for the design, which is really low, by the way. I hope everybody is charging more than $800 for a design. But just for the sake of a number, they'll say, we're going to charge you $800 for your design, but if you hire us to install the design, then we won't charge you for the design. We'll take $800 off." That sounds like a great deal. But what the company is doing is the design still costs what it costs. A person still took the time to walk your property, to take measurements, to come up with a design, to present that design to you, to prepare the estimate, and present you the proposal. That costs money. So they give you $800 off after they put the design price into the project and then take it off. You're
Yeah,
still
no,
paying for the design.
and it also creates a lot of problems. So one of the most common, putting it, the audience being a lot of landscapers, a very common pain point that I hear is, well, how come like all these freaking homeowners are not showing up to the consultation? They're ghosting me.
Hmm,
And the first question I would ask is, well, are
are you
you
charging?
charging for your consultation? They're like, no, it's free consultation. Like, well, there's no stakes involved.
Stop
But
doing that.
if you charge them $500, well, maybe not $500, but $250 for you to show up to their house and to walk the grounds with them and to give them helpful advice, I guarantee you that they're not going to cancel on you because there's stakes involved.
Yep,
And the value of that conversation, the perceived value goes up exponentially because there's a difference between
100%.
yeah, how something free is perceived in our hearts and how something that is paid for is perceived. Because money, I just learned this actually from Dave Ramsey. Every time that we spend money, particularly cash, it the act of spending cash or paying for something activates a little something something in the part of our brain that processes pain. So it hurts us a little bit to lose money. and it makes us think twice. But if your consultation is free, there is no consequence, there is no pain if they don't show up. And we're busy, everybody's busy. Things come up. You
Yep.
forget that you have the free consultation. So you might not show up and you don't think that it's that big of a deal. But of course, to you as a landscaper, it is a big deal because as you said, that's your time. And
Right.
it's costing you money. That's what you're feeling.
Yeah.
But I wholeheartly believe that you guys ought to be charging for the consultation, especially if you're a luxury landscaper,
Mm-hmm.
and 100% for the design. Cedar Springs
Every
Landscape
time.
in Ontario, they were pioneers of that in Ontario, and they were called crazy for charging for their designs.
Yep.
And they will tell you, they used to have a little pricing calculator on their website. They no longer have that, but within the calculator, it would tell you that the average design fee, sorry, that the design fee would be an average of a certain percentage of the entire project. And
Yep.
and it would range usually between $10,000 and up to $25,000. And they're one of the most successful landscapers in Ontario and arguably in Canada doing the type of work that they do. So nobody's hurting. They're attracting better people
Yep.
to work with them. And I think that everybody's better served because they have one of the best design teams out there.
Absolutely. It is something we could do a whole podcast episode about, but charge
Yes.
for your time is worth something. You are an expert in your field, so charge for it. Don't give it away for free. Stop doing that. I tell you, I've never been
Yeah.
ghosted by a client, but I charge $150 for me to spend 30 minutes with them, and they always show up.
Yes. I had a client in the Niagara region. He was retired. He passed the baton to his son. And one of the things that he liked to do was to walk around the garden and do little sketches of plantings.
Hmm.
And one thing that he kept um, as he retired, the one service that he still offered was walking the garden with you for, I believe it was $200. He would show
Yep.
up, he would spend an hour with you, and while he was there, he would do a little planting drawing, and he would give you a plant list. And I thought that was so cool. Well, I encouraged him to charge $200,
Well, and
and
you
I
should be.
hired him. Yes, yes. I mean, that's part of my spiel with my clients. But I also hired them to come to my property and to walk around for 1 hour and do that. And that
Yep.
was so valuable. And I couldn't afford
Absolutely.
at the time to spend thousands on their full design package, but at least that gave me so much valuable knowledge that ChatGPT wouldn't have been able to give me because it can't quite see my yard.
It wouldn't have been specialized
And exactly.
or custom, right? So anybody can go on ChatGPT and tell me what plants I need in southwestern Ontario to create a well-balanced garden. Sure, here you go, no problem. It doesn't know what kind of soil you have. It doesn't know how much space you have. It doesn't know the slope or the stormwater management that's required on site. There's too many variables. But yeah, that's a consultation. So a 1 hour consultation. And you know what? With AI, this is so crazy. Oh my gosh, I shouldn't go down this rabbit hole. I'm just saying, we could be doing an hour-long consultation with somebody wearing AI glasses that records the entire meeting, records video of the property, and then AI can send a summary to that client and we never have to type anything.
Yeah.
Like the software already exists, the hardware already exists. Anyway, I'm buying myself AI glasses this year, so that's why I mention it. So, we're not going to go down an
Well, you
AI
better
rabbit
hurry
hole.
because
We'll do it next
they're
time.
they're on back order apparently. The new Meta glasses. They're
Okay. Well, I'm not sure if I'm going to
Meta
go with
is
Meta.
going to be
I'm I'm exploring options. So, but
okay
yes.
because the Ray-Bans are going to be in back order in Canada apparently.
Okay. Well, I might have to go to the States after all. So
Yeah.
to wrap things up, Diego, one last question for you. So earlier you did mention Mark Bradley as a mentor of yourself. I'm wondering if you can leave us either something from him or just in everything I mean, you've had such an adventure in life and in business, and we've had quite the adventure just on this podcast episode. But is there like one little tidbit, if you could speak directly to the people tuning in right now who might need a message right now, what would you tell them?
I would reiterate what I said earlier about landscapers and how they're doing God's work and they're really solving two of the world's biggest problems. I mean, we look at the state of the world now. There's so much war, there's so much hatred, and a lot of that hatred comes from disconnection. We've come a long way from our purpose as human beings to be connected with each other and to be connected with nature.
Mhm.
And landscapers are solving the world's biggest problems. They're creating spaces and tending to spaces that bring us closer to each other in nature. So I would encourage them to stop thinking of themselves as just a landscaper, as just a gardener, just a landscape designer, because they're not just a landscaper. They're
Mhm.
not just a laborer. They are highly skilled professionals who are, as I said, and I'll say it again, solving two of the world's biggest problems.
Mhm.
And if they keep on doing what they're doing and the industry keeps on growing and keep on spreading the good work, I do believe that people will, I think that there needs to be a revival in this world of connection. If we connect with each other and if we connect more with nature, we will expand our capacity to love, to understand, and solve a lot of the horrible things that are happening in this world.
Amazing. Diego, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you on the show. If you ever started a podcast, I would want to tune in every day. So keep spreading the light, my
Oh,
friend.
well, thank you. I might actually. Yeah,
There you
thank you.
go.
You too.
Okay. I will see you on the up and up. I will see you around. Maybe 1 year I'll meet you on the international speaker circuit. Who knows?
Sounds good. And yeah, let's hopefully we can grab a beer in person in Ontario next time I'm there. One of the times that I'm there. I'm there quite often.
That sounds awesome. You just call me up. Okay. Thanks,
Sounds
Diego.
good.
That's
Heather,
it for
thank you
this
so
episode.
much.
Thank you, Diego, and I will see you around. Cheers.
Bye for now.
That brings us to the end of this week's episode of Hops and Hedges, hosted by me, Heather Gerard of My Landscape Artist. Now, before you go, here's a quick word from our sponsor, ext.tech. In today's fast-paced world, landscaping businesses need modern tools to keep up with constant change, and that's where EXT comes in. EXT is transforming how landscaping, snow removal, and construction companies manage their operations. Using streamlined client management, real-time financial insights, and a modern mobile app your team will actually enjoy using. And with flat-rate pricing, there are no surprises, just clarity and control. If you're ready to revolutionize and grow your landscaping business, visit ext.tech to learn more. For additional savings, use the code HOPS10 at checkout, or just tell them that Heather sent you.